Hey pigs, and step right up and come on down. It's nailed. How's that?
It's good.
Kind of changed it a little bit.
A little, yeah.
Because this is a different one. Also, it's a whole new year.
New year, new us.
So welcome to 2022. Happy New Year Zero, as they say. Yeah, New Year, new us. Except we're finally finishing up the Downward Spiral. It was supposed to happen earlier, but stuff happened, and we'll talk about it later. Our computer broke down. We're recording this on Jessica's laptop. Well, it's communal. Anyway.
Well, it's covered in your stickers. I didn't get a say in putting Olivia Rodrigo all over it. So.
I'm cutting that. You like that, so I don't know why you're complaining.
I would just have picked different stickers.
Whatever. So what are we here to do? Just wrap up our thoughts on Downward Spiral and finally give our overall rating for it in inches.
Yeah.
Somehow we'll probably make it more than 2 hours. No, let's try not to.
We'll try not to.
But the people want content, so here we are. And if things sound different, if there are clicks and pops or any weird audio stuff, it's because, again, we're using that laptop. It's not the ideal situation. There have been audio abnormalities, but we're going to try our best. And it takes longer to edit on this thing, but we'll try to get it out on time. Anyway, we sat down and listened to the Downward Spiral one last time today.
I probably will not listen to this album for a very, 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 very long time.
I might wait a year. Some people are probably thinking, how could you? Like, how could you not love it and listen to it every week for the rest of your life? But when you've lived inside it, some people can't. I'm not the kind of person who can live and breathe one song or one album just infinitely,
Are you making a pointed remark at me?
No. No. There's a lot of people out there who probably could just listen to this forever.
Sometimes I put a record on and Blake's like, oh, you're listening to Low again? And I'm like, Blake, you can play a record more than one time.
I know you can play it more than one time. You're playing it every few days.
It's a banger.
This album will be with me for the rest of my life, but I'm going to wait a while, maybe till after we go through all these Halos to come back to this.
Maybe we'll have a final Halo or a final episode where we rank our Halos, if that's even possible. And I'll have to go back and listen to every single
What
Halo
a nightmare.
again.
Don't create that task for us, having to make a list of 34 plus things and rank them, put them in order. That sounds like my nightmare. For list making people, I'm sure they would think that is fun.
I love lists because I love arguing with them. So like every time there's a new top 100 whatever list, I have to go look at it and be like, they're wrong.
Yeah, true. She does this. So what did you want to talk about first?
Well, I thought first off we could just go over either new things we've discovered since we last recorded, or things we forgot to mention and overlooked, or even things that listeners have sent in, maybe, that we could kind of talk about. But first, I guess, we'll go over something that I thought was interesting, and I don't know if anyone else will think it is, but I did.
Which book are you opening up there?
Okay, so this book, I've been reading this because we're going to do a bonus ep on Bowie and Reznor, and I wanted, I don't know, I've just never read like a long bio about Bowie. And so this is called David Bowie, A Life by Dylan Jones, no relation. But it's really kind of an oral history organized chronologically. And some of it I think was also culled from like previous interviews, and he just kind of put it in here and sprinkled them throughout. But there was one section where it's talking about one chapter where it's kind of discussing the Berlin trilogy and the recording of those albums. And Adrian Belew makes an appearance in this book and is talking about whenever he was called in to record Lodger. He played some guitar parts on it. And I thought it was very interesting.
All right, you did show me this. This is good. It's a good find.
Okay, so I'll just kind of start here. He's talking about a studio where he's recording. The actual studio was on the second floor, which is where the band would set up and record. There was a television camera in the studio, so the control room could see us, but we couldn't see them. The original idea with Planned Accidents, and that was actually the original name of Lodger. The Eno kind of had that as a working name, Planned Accidents, because of the way they were experimenting with recording this album. Anyway, the original idea with Planned Accidents was that they said there was about 20 tracks they'd already worked on, and they wanted me to go upstairs in the studio, put the headphones on, and start playing. And I said, playing what? And they said, no, you just start playing. You play what you like. I asked if I could hear the songs first, and they said no. I was just given a tempo and time signature. They said they wanted to get my accidental responses, and I said, what key? And they said, no, just go upstairs, put the headphones, and play along to the song. And they allowed me to do that twice for each song, no more. And then they'd take their favorite parts of the guitar tracks and cut them up and string them into a composite guitar track. So all those guitar parts you hear on Lodger are things I made up on the spot to a song I'd never heard before. Boys Keep Swinging, DJ, Red Cells, all made up on the spot. The guitar parts were meant to sound accidental, and I think they kind of do. The whole thing took 2 days. When I eventually heard the finished album, I recognized some of the songs, but my parts were a complete surprise to me. It's a great record, though, as it goes far afield, and there are so many different types of material on it. David gave me great encouragement and let me do what I wanted to do within a framework, of course. He used to say to me, just go wild, be as wild as you like. That's why you're here, and that's what I want you to add to the band. So, anyway, does that sound like anything else?
Sound familiar? Yes, it sounds familiar. It sounds like the same approach that they took with Baloo at the old tape place recording the Downward Spiral.
Yep.
They didn't give him a lot of warning or instruction. And it was kind of like Planned Accidents.
Yeah, it was literally like, you do you, dude.
Yeah, and they didn't tell him a lot. They were just like, do what you like. We talked about that on Mr. Self-Destruct, and that's where we got all the weird noises. So that method did not just come out of thin air. It came from Trent's mentor and idol, David Bowie, and his approach with Brian Eno. And also, I'm still freaked out that Reznor and Eno are not working together. We got to make this happen, folks.
It's 2022.
Look, 2022, we don't know how many more years we have on this globe of ours. We don't know how many more shows or albums Trent Reznor's got left in him. Just work with Brian Eno. Also, get a Tony Award.
You gotta get that EGOT.
You gotta do it before you leave this mortal coil.
Work on this downward spiral. Oh my God, again. Work on the Downward Spiral, the musical.
Yeah, just give him a Tony, please.
Piggy the musical.
They could do. I could see someone turning Soul, the Pixar movie, into a musical. That seems a little more likely than Piggy or whatever.
Social Network, the musical.
You know, all the shit they're making into musicals these days, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah.
There was almost a Fight Club stage show. That was almost a thing.
I think so.
Anyway,
I don't know as much about my Fight Club history as I should. And we'll talk about Fight Club again in a little bit, actually.
I think I only know that because maybe Reznor was attached to it somehow, but then it got, canceled.
Okay.
All right.
So another, do you want to talk about your item?
The Angel Heart clip?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it was part 2, side 2, we were talking about The Becoming. And there was so much to talk about. I forgot about to mention that song uses clips from the movie Angel Heart with Robert De Niro. And I've actually never seen that movie, but I did look up the clips, and I'll just insert them here later. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Maybe. But hold on, I got a question though. Was Angel Heart the one with Mickey Rourke?
I'm gonna pull it up.
And
I think so.
The Denise, the Cosby.
Hang on.
Why can't I think of her name? Not Denise. Maybe it was Denise.
Denise Richards.
No.
1987. Mickey Rourke is a private detective contracted by Robert De Niro to track down the iconic singer Johnny Favorite. That's a good name. However, everybody, Harry Angel is Mickey Rourke. Everyone, any questions? Meets a tragic demise. The trail leads him to New Orleans. Okay. Let's see. Oh, something to do with the black arts. And then I think satanic things start happening. And the scene from which they pull the clip for the becoming is somewhere on YouTube. It was disturbing, and someone is moaning in pain and agony. And that's where they took the clip from, and it's reversed. I will play the kind of comparison. I'll add it in post.
Okay, sorry. I had to look up the actress, and it's Lisa Bonet. I'm an idiot.
Lisa Bonet.
I couldn't think of her name, but she did play Denise on The Cosby Show.
Her character name is Epiphany Proudfoot.
Wow.
That is quite a name. That's quite a noir name. Yeah, it's a noir movie. Okay. So Angel Heart. I wanted to get that in there. I had one tiny little stupid thing that I wanted to say it when we were talking about Reptile.
Okay.
And I forgot, and I was doing the editing on the episode with Reptile, and I was like, oh, shit, I didn't say that thing. I thought it was interesting when I thought of it.
Okay.
But you might think it's just stupid.
I don't know. Tell me.
Okay, so and maybe I'll drop a clip, maybe I won't. I think it's after the first chorus. No, it's not. It's in that bridge section after the Kirk, help. That one. The little piano line goes up, dun, 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 dun. And then Trent goes, oh. Mm-hmm. Did you have any interpretation for what that is? Maybe I'm overthinking just a little. Oh,
I didn't, but I do remember you on that episode saying we'll come back to that later, and we never did.
And when I was editing it, I was like, oh, shit. And I drove myself mad because I never did come back to it. This is what I wanted to come back to. He just says, oh, and then it goes into that really dissonant chord. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's kind of the last moment of hope on the album. And then it is dashed away as soon as he says it. That comes in. And that's kind of the death of the final tiny little whimper of hope on the album. When he says, oh, I feel insane right now reading so much into just him uttering oh.
Blake, this is all we've been doing for like 4 months now is talking about this album. I don't think it's insane to like overanalyze an O.
I've lost my mind. I've gone insane. I have the spiral disease now. Mm-hmm. Are you with me so far on this?
I get you. I understand what you're saying. Okay.
And this is what it reminded me of. He says, oh, just before it all falls apart. And it's kind of like a sigh. It's almost like he's saying, oh, bother. Like that kind of thing. Like when.
So I'm trying to imagine that O in my head.
You know what it sounds like.
No, right? I do. I'm trying to see if that sounds like an oh, bother type O.
That's not what he's saying.
Well, no, but I'm trying to.
Kind of you could, the way I'm thinking of it is implied. What it made me think of is something that we know is an influence on Reznor, Hellraiser.
Okay.
And let me explain why.
Okay.
At the very end of the first Hellraiser movie, the what's his name? Frank, the bad guy.
Yes.
He has hooks all up in him,
Mm-hmm.
and he looks horrible. And just before he is pulled apart by the hooks and destroyed, he says, I think he's almost like smiling, and he just says, "Jesus wept."
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
I do.
I watched something that was trying to explain like why the hell he says that, and the interpretation was that he's almost like being sarcastic, or it's almost like a sigh. It's the equivalent. It's an old-fashioned saying, "Jesus wept," but it's the equivalent of saying, "Oh bother," or
Really?
or "Oh well." Like Jesus wept. If you're saying it sardonically, like, "Oh, I stubbed my toe, dang it," and then someone else would be like, "Jesus wept." I imagine.
I have never in my life heard it used like that.
I think this is something they did 100 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, like in Hellraiser, Frank's final utterance of "Jesus wept" to me is like when Trent sighs, "Oh," and then is pulled apart by whatever demons, and all hope is gone for the album. So that's just one interpretation that it popped into my head.
Interesting.
I hope that was worth all the time that it took.
It was worth it because I've never heard that expression used or heard of Jesus wept being used as an like a. I almost said colloquialism, but I don't know if that's the right term.
Could. Well, maybe I kind of want to look it up just to kind of verify that I'm not insane. It is the shortest. It's a two-word verse in the Bible, the shortest. Use as an expletive. In some places in the English-speaking world, the phrase "Jesus wept" is common mild expletive spoken when something goes wrong or to express incredulity. Also used sarcastically when expressing unsympathetic indifference to someone else's perceived unfortunate situation or self-pity.
Interesting.
Works perfectly in that moment in Hellraiser.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically the equivalent of saying, like, "I have the world's smallest violin."
Kinda, yeah, kinda. So maybe before that came into fashion, people would say the Jesus wept thing. And I know that Trent does not say Jesus wept in Reptile, but we know, God knows he's a Hellraiser fan of the works of Clive Barker. And I think it's just a similar sentiment. Write in and tell us if you think I'm reading too much into it, or if you agree. If you agree, text "Blake is right."
Or if you just think this was an interesting study of English language expressions.
Right. Mm-hmm. I love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
I'd never heard that before. So interesting. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. The only other thing that I have, you might have more things, but one of our listeners and friend of the podcast, Matthula from Creepy Crawly Co.
Yeah, a great nailed booster, and has great merch.
Mm-hmm.
Puts out some great stuff.
Yes. So
and made our amazing nailed "How Straight Can I Be" merchandise.
Okay. Yes.
Which we love.
Yes. So we were messaging one day and he was like, "Have you ever thought about," because we know that Trent is a big fan of like Mark Allman soft cell, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Have you ever thought about another track one that kind of matches like the beginning intensity of Mr. Self-Destruct?" And it's by Soft Cell and it's on Nonstop Exotic Cabaret. And it's the first album there, or sorry, the first track on that album.
It's so weird.
And it's called Frustration.
They have another track one that's also called Mr. Self-Destruct on a different album.
Yes.
But this is not that one. This is, the one from that she just said.
Yes. I can kind of see where he kind of got that idea. There is like this same kind of intensity that builds until the boom, that wall of sound is like hits you when the song starts.
He's doing a vocal that he kind of builds a little bit. I would say it's there's a slight similarity there. After you said that, I thought of something, because we were talking about Kraftwerk on Discographology, another podcast I do. And we're doing their discography, and their album called Radioactivity, which is a concept album, begins with, and this is pre Soft Cell, obviously pre Nine Inch Nails. And I continue to say that, they're Kraftwerk inspired everyone, obviously, every electronic thing that came after, obviously. But anyway, the album starts, I believe the track is called Geiger Counter, and the album starts with the noise of a Geiger counter, which makes clicks that increase in frequency as you get closer to radiation, or as radiation increases. I forget. So you hear the Geiger counter, which kind of sounds like a drum machine kick drum, which I guess it is, get faster and faster. So it's just like dun, 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 dun. So, like Mr. Self-Destruct, it gets faster and faster and faster until it becomes the beat of the song. And it goes, I believe it goes into Radioactivity, the title track, which is an awesome track. But yeah, huge similarity to the beginning of Downward Spiral there.
So that's all I've got for stuff that we missed or stuff that people have sent in to contribute to.
Yes, thank you for everyone who sends anything in.
We can do our ratings. I don't know what you have, so.
Yeah, the rating, just our overall thoughts on it, and maybe pick best and worst songs. We don't have to, but we could.
It's going to be hard to pick a best. I can tell you my worst right away.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
Okay. One thing I wanted to talk about, and I totally forgot to ask Adam Steiner about this when we interviewed him a few weeks ago. But on another podcast, they were talking about his idea of the Downward Spiral as being like a very American album with its themes of like decay and depression and, religious control and gun violence, etc.
Yeah.
That it's really as all American as like anything that like Tom Petty put out. It's actually probably more American, maybe. That's not what Steiner had said at that, but I think it might be even more American because these are, I feel like the kind of artists that people think of as like quintessentially American, paint America in like a very
Kid Rock.
I don't know. Like the picture of America is very different than this, but yet this is much more accurate,
Yeah.
So I just want to read a quote from Steiner. Kind of about that. He wrote, "Far from being a young, angry white male album, Spiral exposes the oppressive monster of the male gaze through its self-image. Revisited in hindsight of the incel movement and the contemporary friction caused by white male privilege at large, the album can seem both progressive and prescient on issues that remain at the forefront of social debate today, especially here in America." It's everywhere where you have white males controlling, which is pretty much everywhere. But
it kind of makes me think of Year Zero and how it's like maybe a more upfront and obvious and blatant example of an American album about American problems.
These are maybe more the internal problems that a lot of Americans face, and they aren't discussed about as openly. They are more so now, though. We talk about mental health and gun violence and, Christofascism, I guess, a lot more openly now. And some of these are new terms too, like incel, things like that. But I
feel like we've allowed pop music to be much dirtier now, which I'm fine with. We are allowed to say the F word, even if you're Taylor Swift. But pop music, I don't know why I'm saying pop music. mainstream music is not doesn't talk about hating oneself anymore. I feel like that really fell out of fashion. Self-love has been very in, you know, and something like the downward spiral, which directs a lot of hatred and poison inward toward oneself. You just don't hear stuff like that, at least in the mainstream.
Have we had like a mainstream concept rock album in a long time?
Probably. I mean, there's probably like a Killers or Imagine Dragons one. It's just I'm not interested in listening. It's like not
Imagine Dragons.
Not in. Who knows?
Maybe. I don't know.
If they are doing it, it wasn't interesting enough to get most people's attention. Maybe a different generation would know more about that than me. But
yeah, I find most mainstream rock music really boring and don't listen to it.
I mean, pop singers are doing concept albums and stuff now. I mean, we see that. That's more common these days, it seems like. Gaga did one. Taylor Swift, the aforementioned. What
was her concept album?
I feel like Folklore and Evermore were were kind of concept-y.
I guess.
Yeah, whatever.
Maybe.
I feel like even Ariana Grande's doing it. Maybe I'm just full of shit. Whatever.
I don't know.
Halsey.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's extremely Nine Inch Nails related, but it is a concept album.
True.
About the body horror of birth.
And loss of self identity. Yeah. I was just thinking about big mainstream rock acts, though. I guess Halsey kind of made that crossover, though, this year.
Yeah.
For sure.
The album rocks a little harder than maybe her previous stuff, but also it's not all just rock. It's also very Moog synthesizer-y.
I guess Hopeless Fountain Kingdom was also very concept-y.
It was definitely
Casey Musgrave's newest album.
Yeah. See, I'm telling
about
you,
divorce.
The pop artists are doing it these days.
I've been saying for a long time that I find most pop music be more interesting than most rock music.
That's just what, I don't know. It's just more.
I mean, it happens. I mean, things
they
change.
cycle in and out. And
Yeah.
that seems to be the thing right now. That's the thing that's grabbing my attention personally.
Well, I think a lot of it too is that younger people have access to so much more than we did as kids, and maybe they don't segregate it as much as we did. Like when I was younger and I found alternative music, like I didn't really listen to anything else. I only wanted to be like the alternative girl, like the cool grunge girl.
Yeah.
Like that was like my goal. And very rarely did I let like pop music in. And if you did, it was just because it was everywhere, like you just could not escape it. But now I feel like younger people and musicians have so much more access to genres and music and everything they could possibly imagine. And I feel like modern pop music doesn't have a lot of genre boundaries per se, maybe, where they can be more experimental and play around with that and incorporate all kinds of different styles into the pop music they're making. So,
yeah.
Whereas I feel like the rules of rock are very rigid still, and
Yeah, it's almost like they swapped places. Rock used to be the more free genre, and pop at the time that Max Martin was writing Britney Spears' first few songs and the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and stuff, it was very rigidly rule oriented and all kind of sounded similar.
Well, and I also feel like it wasn't as good. I feel like pop music now is like they can, like, okay, for example, Olivia Rodrigo, that album is almost every single song is a pure pop perfection, if that makes sense. But if you listen to like the first Britney Spears album, it mostly sucks except for like one song.
It mostly sounds the same. It's a lot of garbage. Also, her second single from her second album sounded, Oops, I Did It Again.
That was the first single from her second album.
Sorry, that's what I meant.
I think the second was maybe Lucky. But
it's like a very similar song to Baby One More Time.
It really is.
Basically the same production, similar songwriting. There's not a lot of experimentation or new stuff there. On the Rodrigo album, it's like genre defying. Each song is almost a new genre. A lot of good stuff on there.
Anyway, what I was saying is I feel like there's more freedom in pop than there is in rock right now. But also I don't listen to a lot of rock, so I could be.
Yeah.
I mean, most. I'm trying to think of like rock bands that we're really into that are other than like Nine Inch Nails, which hasn't, released.
There's a
anything
lot
really.
of great rock bands, but they're more underground. Mm-hmm. And if we're talking about rock that's on the radio, I don't know. It's all so boring to me. I haven't been seeking out most of the.
Also, I think it's just age. I think at some point you just don't care about keeping up.
Yeah, I can't. Look, we're old.
And also, there's just so much content. You can't keep up with everything.
There's too much.
It's too overwhelming. And so if I hear something, if someone I know and trust tells me, don't listen to it, you won't like it. I'm like, okay, I won't bother and waste my time. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for that recommendation. But
okay.
Sorry, that was a long.
No, that's good.
But yeah, I was just thinking about how Steiner had said that really the downward spiral is almost as American as apple pie.
And it's a.
I mean, that's not a quote, but that's basically. Yeah.
And that's an outside. It comes from an outsider's perspective, from a writer who's not American. Maybe it takes that removal to be able to have that perspective on it, or he sees it a little more. It's in more clear relief to an outsider, maybe.
Do you know what I was thinking about, though, when we were talking about mental health and how people are more open about talking about things like medication, et cetera, therapy? I was thinking about how, like, I have, almost every friend I have is on some form of antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication. But I remember, like, just 10 years ago or so, when I was trying out different types of medication. And this is from my sister, who was always concerned about my mental health. This is her point of view here. I posted something about Lexapro on my Facebook. And this is actually probably more like, no, it was probably like 10 years ago. And she was like, I don't think you should be talking about things like that where the public can see.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And I was just like, well, I disagree.
Did she say that? Did she reply to you, or did she say that in private?
I can't I think she might have messaged me on Facebook, or maybe I think she posted it on the post, and other people were like, you're wrong.
In the year 2012, someone is really like...
It was probably more like 2011 or 2010.
Okay. We can't talk about mental health in the public sphere.
Well, what I was saying, it was just kind of funny because she was also someone who's like, you should probably go to therapy and you should probably get on antidepressants. Yeah. But if I talked about it publicly, it was like a shameful thing.
It's got to keep the shameful family secrets. Well, now we figured out that everybody does it. Yeah. Everybody's mental health is poor now.
If you are on Wellbutrin, raise your hand. Yeah.
We're all raising our hands. Yeah, after the couple of years we've had.
One time I had a friend who said she went to her doctor and was talking about getting anti-anxiety medication. And then she asked her doctor something like, do you mean people are just raw dogging it through life right now with no... is it possible that people are really doing this?
That was like a tweet that someone sent out or something.
Was it a tweet?
I think I saw some tweet that was like,
well, maybe she stole it from the tweet. Maybe she was inspired. Maybe she Lizzo'd it.
But it's like some people are just raw dogging reality. And it's funny, but yeah, I couldn't imagine. Could you imagine being sober all the time?
Buddy, I can't think of a day
Crazy stuff.
Well, I'm not going to say that. Never mind.
I think at the time Trent was making or had made the downward spiral, he was maybe not pro mental health treatment.
I think he was more like, and this was a lot of the fears that people had about antidepressants and things like that, was I think he was more afraid that he would feel drugged up and maybe feel like a zombie and not be able to feel anything. And he would rather be depressed and sad and still have like his senses intact, I guess, than he would to become kind of zombified, which honestly, that kind of thing. Well, I know that when I tried Prozac, it really did zombify me. I hated Prozac.
Yeah, it depends on the drug.
It depends on the drug and the person. It's all different.
But that's it's kind of a common old fear of many medications.
It's trial and error, folks who have taken antidepressants know this. So, I guess the next thing I want to talk about is more like the legacy of the album. And one of the things I want to talk about is just the sound, and maybe because it was so ahead of the curve. As Steiner said, it was like ahead of the curve sonically. And that's why it still sounds good and fresh today.
It does. It sounds good.
It holds up better than like Pearl Jam's 10. I'm sorry for people who are like Pearl Jam heads, but like, do you know what I mean? Like a lot of the seminal albums of the 90s, this is definitely up there, and it's because of the sonic soundscape, a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can point out and say, oh, that sounds very 90s, or that has aged. In some ways, this has aged, but I think it's aged well. I don't know. I think it still sounds very high tech. I don't know if that's the right word.
Well, here, I'll read. Here's something that Charlie Clouser said. And this might be from an interview he did with Steiner, because it was in Into the Never. But he said, 25 years later, it still sounds fresh to me. As the technology of record production has gotten more sophisticated, many artists are seduced by the ease with which they can make things sound slick and smooth. And Spiral bucked that trend. It sounds even more urgent now.
Yeah, I can see that. And yeah, it's the opposite of slick and smooth. It's a very dirty and grimy.
I mean, they worked hard to make sure it was dirty and grimy.
I mean, it is high tech in a literal sense, but also, really gnarly and nasty and shitty, which is by design.
Yeah. I guess one of the things I want to talk about is kind of the persona that Reznor, that was kind of forced maybe upon Reznor after this album, right? So Daphne Carr in The Fader wrote, "The Downward Spiral made Reznor a star and a poster child of mid-90s misanthropy, which Reznor used to sustain a massive touring schedule, launch the career of protege Marilyn Manson, and run the Nothing Records subsidiary. The hopelessness of The Downward Spiral defined the next decade of Reznor's life." So he became, I think, as Daphne says, like Mr. Self-Destruct. Like that is who he was for like the next decade in like public. And maybe that's why like The Fragile was so hard for people to accept.
Because it
like
wasn't
like older fans, maybe.
Much of it wasn't
at
as
first.
gritty.
Maybe. I
grimy.
think there's a lot of things we can discuss there, but also it wasn't Mr. Self-Destruct making the record. Do you know what I mean? Like that persona was kind of, for Trent it was gone, but it wasn't for maybe his fans who still kind of wanted that kind of.
He was personally self-destructing as he made it. So and he's talked about this, and everybody talks about this, how the Downward Spiral became real, but not until after the album was out for years.
Well, he was like, it was like maybe a known self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes.
Like maybe I even knew that this was how my life would turn out, and I was writing the record about that. But I was thinking more just about his public image, I guess. Like he cut off his hair. The long hair, gone.
Yeah.
Right? Broke many a young girl heart.
People always put too much on that. Like, it's hair. It grows back.
I know, but...
Remember when Anthony Kiedis cut off about 8 feet of hair?
I never was a big Anthony Kiedis head, so it didn't bother me.
It was a thing.
I thought he looked great.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't care.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, he wasn't the same person that he was, 5 years before he had changed. And he wasn't that, I don't know how to describe it. I just think it's interesting that, he was kind of that figure of that 90s sad, angry misanthrope. And that's just how people always think of him.
Prince of
Probably
Darkness.
still,
Yeah, they do.
For some people. I mean, he is kind of a curmudgeon, but I love him for it.
Yeah, he's leads a little bit of a shut-in life, which I respect.
Yeah, he did when he was young too, because I think there was like a Details interview where Chris Heath is talking to him and asking him like, why aren't you like, I mean, you're at the top of your game. You could be out like dating supermodels and doing drugs and living this rock star life instead of, just hanging out recording crap all the time. And Reznor's like, I disappoint myself. Like, I just don't think it ever had any kind of intrigue for him to do that kind of thing. You never saw him in like tabloids or and like Rolling Stone would have like their random notes section where they would take pictures of musicians like hanging out at parties or what. In Reznor was never in there, if ever.
If he had become like a Tommy Lee or any of those, I don't think we'd be here talking about this. I think I would have lost respect long ago, and it would be over. Like he's a different kind of musician. And I guess that's why he's lasted. His respectability's still there.
Yeah. And Reznor, like looking back at this album now as an adult, well, he was an adult then, but as a much older person, adult. Yes. In Vulture in 2017, he said the point of the album was naked emotional outpouring, and now it sometimes feels like it crosses over into eye roll material. So interesting.
I get that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we're all going to roll our eyes if we pull out our high school journal and read entries from it, you know? Mm-hmm. A little bit equivalent to that.
Yeah, maybe. And especially because he always has kind of been the person who wants to move on and not be kind of pegged into that role sonically that people want to define for him. So,
right.
Yeah.
What's your best song? What's your worst song?
Oh, wait, no, not yet. Hold on. I got some more stuff.
All right.
So, one other thing, we talk about like how art creates art, you know, art inspires art in all kinds of different mediums. So one thing that you can thank the Downward Spiral for is Fight Club. Apparently, the author Chuck Palahniuk. Am I saying his name right?
Chuck. I've heard so many different pronunciations of Chuck Palahniuk or whatever.
No, I don't
the
like
hell.
Palahniuk.
I've said Palahniuk. I don't know.
Palahniuk. Palahniuk sounds like colonic, which I kind of like.
Maybe he likes that. He is a gross writer, so
That's
I don't.
True.
I think.
I mean, I read that short story, and if you guys have read any of his works, you know the short story. Mm-hmm. He said that I think this was on Twitter that he said Fight Club was mostly written with the Downward Spiral playing on repeat in the background, and it's because he likes to use the same piece of music to try to create a continuity of mood from one day's work to the next. And so when he was writing Lullaby, he was listening to a lot of Fixed.
That's really weird. I mean, I haven't read that, but that would put my mind in a weird space to listen to Fixed day in, day out.
Yeah. Well, have you read Lullaby?
No.
Okay.
What?
Nothing.
What is it?
Do you know what's funny?
Is it weird? What?
I love Fight Club, the movie. I still like it. We watched it recently, right? Because we were watching all the Finchers. Yeah. I still like it. I still think it bangs. I own the book and I've never read it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had to read it for a class, so I read it once.
Yeah. Weird. And I've read a lot of his other books. I just don't know why I've never read. I don't know why.
The movie looms so large that it like sticks out in my memory a lot more than the book. But I've seen the movie several times.
Yeah, I think we all did. The only other thing I wanted to kind of discuss, and maybe we can talk about this more whenever we just do kind of a wrap up of this era. But I just want to talk about how the sound and aesthetics of this album have like really inspired even contemporary things. Mm-hmm. Well, for one thing, I don't think Seven would have existed without.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Trent Reznor, like, you know, I just think that there's a lot of aesthetic influence in that movie. The grime, the grit,
and the music.
The music, obviously. And it was also so
dark.
So disgusting and dark,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. I think that with the Closer video really defined a lot of aesthetics for a lot of different film, commercial, TV directors. Maybe as, you know, especially now I feel like we're seeing it more because those people have grown up and now they're working in the creative fields. And so I feel like you see that influence a lot more now. And one thing I was talking about to Blake was the very first time that I ever watched American Horror Story. And I didn't know that Charlie Clouser was involved at all with the making of the theme.
Neither did I.
The very first time I watched it, I was watching the opening credits. I'm like, this looks like a fucking Nine Inch Nails video, and it sounds like one too. Like it really does. And I don't know if
the first season, especially, it looks like the Closer video.
Apocalypse looks a lot like the Closer video. It literally has like reptiles slithering around and things like that. And the first season also does too. But
yeah, and it's got like the old and brown, and like the film. Hand cranked film look, and like the film is burning away.
It's the apocalypse, yeah.
Well, I think also on the first season,
maybe on the first, it wasn't as brown hued. I feel like,
and there are like It looks like a medical museum of oddities with old skeletons that are misshapen.
Weird medical instruments, things like that laying
Very
around.
close to a music video.
Yeah, yeah. So I feel like a lot of mainstream things that you wouldn't even think about are very much influenced by the look and the sound of this album. And probably will continue to do so because I feel like Nine Inch Nails is having like another resurgence because of, well, the 90s are in general, but I think people are really starting to pay more tribute and pay more attention to the complete work of Reznor. So.
Right. Our listeners skew so young, you know. I mean, there are people our age and older as well, but I never expected so many Zoomers and little babies.
We do have a lot of little babies. They're sweet. You're sweet little babies.
It's just like
in our Discord, they're so cute. They're like, "Oh, I wasn't even born yet," and we're all like,
"It's like,
great."
Oh boy, I'm ancient."
Yeah, I feel so old.
And their parents got them into Nine Inch Nails, which is really weird because our parents forbid us to listen to the filth.
My mom never really did.
Well, I'm sure, if she...
Don't you dare say that she doesn't care about me. Don't you dare.
No, I won't.
Okay.
I don't really think that. But you know what I mean, right? Yes. Many in our generation were forbid.
Oh, definitely. Which only made you want it more.
I was not forbidden, but if that's just because my parents didn't know the content at all. They had no clue what was going on. If they knew, they might have not liked it.
Mm-hmm. I think honestly, I just feel like parents who get really caught up in that are like the moral panic type parents who really think that the satanic panic was real, or or parents who have nothing better to do.
True. Yeah. That's a lot of
who
reasons.
go through their kids' rooms. Like I always feel like I had Mormon friends whose parents would go through their rooms. And I was like, wait, your parents go through your rooms?
Yeah, they toss the cell like they do in prison.
I had a friend who would ask me to record like Dead Kennedys tapes for him, but labeled them like Bob Dylan. Yeah. So I would make I'd record off, some whatever.
Hopefully they don't have a problem with Bob Dylan.
No, Bob Dylan's fine. Mormons love Bob Dylan.
Do they?
I don't know.
That would be
But it's
so
a lot
weird.
less. If you were looking at your kid's musical collection and you saw Bob Dylan, like someone was like, yeah, this is...
he has Christian music.
This is Blonde on Blonde, whatever. He went through a Christian phase in the 80s.
Yeah, he's got Christian music. He's got Christmas music.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
One of the first things that Steiner talks about in Into the Never is about how the downward spiral, and this is kind of to quote him, he said, "It has become for many that rare thing, the album that saved your life." So I was going to ask you, is this something that meant that much to you and really helped you through anything?
It did. When I was a teenager, yes, this and The Fragile both meant a lot to me. It's possible that they saved my life. It's also possible that they made my life harder. I don't know which one of those things is true.
Yeah.
Or could be both is true,
Yeah.
So I don't know if I was depressed because of, we've talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Depressed because of the music, or listened to the music because I was depressed. It's probably the latter.
Yeah.
More so.
Yeah, I think whenever I really got into downward spiral, it was like 96. I was a freshman in high school, and I knew some Nine Inch Nails songs, from before that, but I didn't actually own any of their albums. And I finally bought this one. I think it was because my friend Erica moved, and I would just listen to her copy when I hung out with her. But anyway, so I finally bought it, and I was very lonely. My sister was in college at that time, her freshman year, and my mom was working 2 jobs. So I would come home after school and be alone sometimes until 11:30.
Dang.
Yeah. And it was a really lonely time. And I would just lay in bed and listen to music all the time. And this was an album that I always turned to. I don't know.
I laid in bed listening to this music a lot as well.
Yeah. It just was something that despite all the harshness and ugliness of sounds, was very comforting to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's necessarily something that saved my life. I did have a lot of depression. I had a lot of issues. I still do. Yeah, especially pandemic era America.
Don't we all?
Yeah, it's just slightly different. I'm a little bit older, so the issues have changed and seem to be much more existential than they are just me feeling like alone and stupid and fat and horrible.
Oh, don't say that.
Well, that's how I felt as a teen. But I think too about Tori Amos.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to another podcast that I like a lot and I recommend. It's called 60 Songs That Explain the 90s. There was an episode about Cornflake Girl.
That was a good one. I heard that one.
Great episode. As a lot of people who listen to this podcast are probably Tori Amos fans, maybe.
Sure.
She wrote a song called Me and a Gun about when she was raped as a young woman. And a lot of people after her shows, when she gets to meet her fans, will come up to them and tell her that, that song means so much to them and it saved their life. And she's always said something to the effect like, no, it didn't save your life. You worked hard to save your own. Something to that effect.
I think that's a good statement to make.
Yeah.
People throw around the phrase, this album or this band or insert whatever here saved my life.
But you know what? Credit yourself too, because it does it's really hard.
Like, did Nirvana really save your life? Like, you had to have done some work. That Kurt Cobain didn't just reach out and pluck
I feel like it's something that it makes you feel less alone to know that other people have the same thoughts and fears and feelings and anxieties that you have. Mm-hmm. And it is nice to feel less alone, but credit yourself a little bit here, people. Give yourself a little bit of credit. It's hard to come out of really bad depressive states.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of strength.
Yeah.
So,
no one musician
or to overcome trauma. Sorry. All kinds of different things. But
no one artist will pull you out of it single-handedly. I think maybe. I haven't personally had the experience of feeling like any particular music saved my life.
Mm-hmm. Oscar feels the same.
Neither is Oscar.
Yeah.
Oscar's life was saved by
me. You're welcome.
Right.
I literally saved you off the street, buddy.
It's true, and she can put you back there too
No.
if you don't behave.
I would never. Come here.
I was going to try to put myself back in the headspace of where I was at 15, 16, but or even 14, but I don't want to. It's way too...
No. You know, what's sad is that I threw out all my journals from that time period and most pictures of myself from high school, and even letters that my friends and I would write to each other. I threw all those away. I just was like, I don't want to ever go back there again, because it was a really dark, sad space where I would do stupid things to myself, and it was a very lonely time, dark time.
It was for me too.
Scary time, you know. And it's not just facing depression or anxieties. A lot of it is also just maybe becoming aware of your position in the world class wise. There's all kinds of things that you've never had to consider before that as you get older you become more aware of.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay. Before we bum everyone out too much, can we take a quick break and then come back and give our final thoughts and stuff?
Sure.
That's the sound of key lime LaCroix, baby.
I already opened my drink. I'm drinking Topo Chico.
Well, I'm sorry that you're not drinking Trent's favorite, and I am.
It's okay. I'm my own person. I don't need approval.
I do what Trent says.
Okay. I love Topo Chico. It's the best.
I am not as into it.
That's because it has no flavor. It's just mineral
Got
water.
it. I need my flavor. Come on.
Yeah, it's just mineral water. It's good.
Is it carbonated?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, at least it's got that going for it. Okay, people are not tuning in to hear about water.
Maybe they are. Maybe they want some Rex.
Even though I'm the one who started that, sorry.
Okay.
So we want to kind of run down the final rankings. This is what everyone's been waiting for weeks and months. Well, it feels like a year. They say, what do Blake and Jess give the downward spiral in inches out of 9?
I thought you wanted to do favorite track and
we can do that.
least favorite track first.
I don't know. Okay. I don't know my answers. Do you?
Least favorite.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Big Man with a Gun.
Why?
I already talked about it extensively in a previous episode. So
that's
if you want to know
least favorite.
why. But here's the thing. Like I said, I couldn't imagine the album without it. So whatever.
It would have to be reworked a little bit for, I don't know. I mean, I totally understand why it's everyone's least favorite and why he thought maybe it shouldn't have even been on there, in hindsight. Do you have a favorite? This is too hard. Favorite's too hard. I couldn't do it. I don't think I can do that.
I mean, Reptile fucks.
Yeah, but is it the best?
The Becoming. I love The Becoming.
Yeah, I mean, I love March of the Pigs.
March of the Pigs.
Is one of my
Piggy.
favorite. Piggy's great.
Everyone loves Closer. I mean,
Closer's great.
Hurt is great.
Oh, Eraser is one of my favorite tracks on there for sure.
Amazing.
I love A Warm Place. It's not like any of the other tracks.
I also love A Warm Place. I don't know if I can pick a favorite. I can pick a least favorite, totally. But a favorite? No. I don't think I can do it.
Yeah. I don't know that I can either.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you have a list with our previous ratings in inches anywhere?
I
know you were keeping track of it, and I don't know where that went.
Let me see if I do. You got to give me a minute. I know I gave Broken 9 inches. You gave it 12 inches.
Yeah, Broken fucks.
Trying to find what we gave Pretty Hate Machine.
Yeah, I feel like I should make mine higher.
I keep hundreds and thousands of
he really
sticky
has
notes
a ton of sticky notes and little notebooks.
Everything is just written down in random pieces of paper. Scrap. This is how
That's
do
literally
things.
My organization at work too. And so like if something comes up, I'm like, let me find this tiny piece of paper that has something on it.
That's how I do it here. It's how I do it at my work.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only way my brain works.
I know.
My brain is not digitized yet.
My brain is analog.
Oh, I found a little notebook page since we're kind of looking back at what we've done. Where I had ideas for a title. When we started recording, we didn't know what we would call this podcast.
Mm-hmm. This is a fun ephemera that you found. Okay.
One of the things I wrote, Halo Baby. Halo Baby. Okay. That
okay.
didn't go over great.
No.
Ring Fingers.
No, I didn't like that one.
Happiness and Slavery. That's referring to marriage. Mr. and Mrs. Self-Destruct.
Mm-hmm.
I was really leaning heavy on the marriage aspect. And then Jess told me, let's play down that we're married. People don't even have to know that we're married. In fact, let's just keep that our secret.
No, I didn't say that. I thought you were leaning too much on it.
Yeah, I was.
And making it a little too
I lost my place.
A little too gimmicky.
We're in this together, a married nin cast. The Lovers. These are all I don't even know if this is a title. I wrote down Halo Be Thy Name. I also remember I wanted to call it The Whole 9 Inches. And at some point I also said Closer to Pod. I know other people have used that before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, here's where I first wrote down. I was drawing logos and writing down our slogan.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Oh, fuck. Here we go. Let's see. Okay. Pretty Hate Machine. I gave us 7 inches. You gave 7.5 inches.
Oh, okay. I'll stand by 7.5.
I feel like we weren't nice enough to that one. Like we've been hearing from people who are like, that's my favorite album.
Oh, here. I'm going to do the pitchfork thing. 7.5 is a good score, guys.
Seven, guys, 7 is really great. I'm looking to the audience
Pitchfork.
and
6.3 is a good score, guys. Out of 10. 6.3 is great. Yeah, a failing grade is great. Thanks.
Let's see. The singles we rated badly because those are rough Halos. Purest Feeling, I gave a 5. You gave a 4. That can't be right. We weren't very kind to Purest Feeling, folks. But by the time we got to Broken, a 9 and a 12. And 12 is off the scale.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so there's the answers to that. So have you thought about what you would rate the Downward Spiral out of 9 inches?
Have you? What's your score?
I thought about it.
What's your score?
Okay. The Downward Spiral. I think I was going to give it a 9,000. You didn't let me finish.
Okay, sorry.
9,000 inches. No, that's not really it.
Okay.
But I fooled you.
You did.
This is what I think I'll really say. 13 inches.
Wow. You have to best me, huh?
I have to one up your Broken more than a foot and an inch, because it's an immortal, important album that means the world to me.
Okay. Cool.
And I can barely find anything wrong with it. even with the offensive lyrics of Big Man with a Gun in there. It's hard to find things not to like about the album.
I have a question. Measurement, American measurement, craziness. Okay, so a yard is 3 feet?
They're not American, they're British.
A yard is British?
Oh yeah, a yard is 3 feet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all British. But they moved on to metric and we didn't.
Yeah, we didn't.
Hang on. Now, if you're measuring in yards, this is getting ridiculous.
I'm going to give this album 36 inches, which is...
Oh my God.
That's 1 yard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm giving this a yard. I'm giving this
Jesus.
a whole yard.
You had
36 inches.
You had to really one up me. Okay, well, I'm changing mine now. Okay. I'm giving mine the whole 9 yards.
Oh my God. That's insane.
No, I'm not really going to do that because that's ridiculous. Okay. I'm sticking with 13. A sensible gentleman's 13.
I think a sensible gentlewoman's 36 out of 9.
Okay, that's extreme. If you give The Fragile like an 8 or something, I'm going to throw something across the room. All right, so people, write it down in your spreadsheets that you keep. Blake said 13. Jessica said 36 inches. Insane. But that's we're making up for rating the early Halos so badly, you know.
What's next, Blake? What are we going to talk about in our next main feed ep? What's the next Halo?
Well, we do have to finally move on. I'm glad to move on from this period of the podcast because it seemed to last a lifetime, and
I'm ready for each episode, to be one Halo again.
Yeah. I'd like to go back to that for a little while. The next one, Halo 9, is Closer to God.
Hell yeah.
Or that's what it's called, right? Yeah. A sort of closer single. There are different versions. We'll probably concentrate on one. Probably
the album version because we skirted over it.
Yeah. We'll talk about it. And it's actually on the one that I have.
I wonder if I can find videotape of Dick the Stripper.
Is there videotape of it?
Yeah, my mom videotaped it.
Okay, that's disgusting, first of all. It's weird that they allowed that.
It was in her dorm room, I think.
Oh my God. Why was your mom? Oh, I hate every part of this. You need to find
I'll ask my sister if that was one of the things that was...
I hate it, but you should find it because I really would like...
I need to ask her if that was one of the things that was transferred onto DVD recently.
Oh my God. People are going to want that uploaded so badly.
Yeah, dude. I'm going to figure out how to do it.
Then after that, 10, Further Down the Spiral. Talk about the remix album. Then, we'll go into whole new eras with new guests.
It's still part of this era.
Yeah, kind of. But I just wanted to kind of tease that, we had a great guest on. We have another guest lined up who is great, and it would be cool to get some big names on here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude.
So if anybody can get a hold of Richard Patrick or whatever, he did that other podcast. Surely he can come on here.
They were LA people, weren't they?
What? I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know either.
No clue.
I feel like LA people, like podcasters who live in LA.
That's where we're going.
Okay. They just get a better opportunity to get people on their podcast.
I feel like after the COVID era, it doesn't matter where you are. Everything is just
assumed
to be.
But now
Zoom.
no one cares anymore about COVID. So.
Well, we do and we don't. We do and we don't.
I care.
Anyway. If it weren't for the COVID era, we maybe wouldn't have started this.
That's true.
And thanks for hanging around with us this long. And I feel like this is a milestone part that we've finally gotten to here. And we're kind of entering a new era. Well, not really yet, because we still got to finish up the the singles and stuff. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And the remix album.
I think our next bonus feed episode will be about moral panics.
Oh yeah, I forgot to ask you that. The next one will be about moral panic, and that'll be next week.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry again for any delays that may happen or temporary loss of quality. Our hope is to have better quality than ever, and to continue making a better and better podcast. And we need to replace my computer that broke down and went to shit. What, just out of curiosity, what other bonus stuff after that? Nothing Records?
There's going to be a short history of Nothing Records. I don't know when I'm going to do that one though.
Bowie?
There'll be several parts in that. It's not going to all be one episode.
Yeah. So we'll start talking about Nothing Records in the bonus feed.
Yeah. There'll also be an episode about Reznor and Bowie in the bonus feed. And we'll have another fashion episode with Katie.
Got to do that. Yes.
I'm fun.
Excited for that.
I know, I am too.
I'm not even part of it.
Do you want to be part of it? Do you want to be included?
I don't have to be.
Okay.
It's more fun to be surprised.
Oh, okay. When you're editing.
But I like talking to Katie too, so maybe I can just jump on. Whatever.
Maybe we'll come up with a question for you like we did last time.
Yeah, I can just be at the end.
Okay, that sounds good. And I don't have my list in front of me. Lost Highway soundtrack.
Oh, that's a bonus because it's not a Halo. Mm-hmm. That introduces the perfect drug, of course.
Mm-hmm. It's Reznor's first foray. Sorry, I can't talk tonight. Reznor's first foray into movie scoring. He created a couple of pieces for that.
Oh yeah. I'd argue that. Well, we talked about it. That Natural Born Killers is kind of like the precursor to that. It's not exactly scoring, but of course he does the original cool instrumentals for Lost Highway. So anyway, yeah, we need a new computer. So we've been online doing a fundraising raffle, a series of raffles, I should say. And I wanted to thank everyone who has so generously participated in those and bought raffle tickets. And congrats to Robert on winning the shirt that we had, and congrats to Stacy on winning the last Trent art print, the last Trent painting print ever by Lauren.
Thank you, Lauren, for
donating that. Thank you to many, many people who are donating. Some of the things, our original idea for the raffle was we were going to raffle off some things that we had.
I mean, we're still going to.
We still are going to, and that shirt was something from Jessica's sizable shirt collection. Well,
I had bought it intended to do a giveaway.
Right.
So that's why it was never worn.
Yeah. And then people I didn't ask for this at all. People started coming out of the woodwork to offer to donate things to the raffle. So Lauren donated the art print.
Adam
Steiner is donating a signed copy of his book, Into the Never. And we are currently raffling that. Mm-hmm. By the time you hear this, it may have already been raffled off.
Matthew from Creepy Crawly.
Yes. Creepy Crawly Company gave us a ton of buttons and magnets, including the nailed originals based on a thing I said.
And a patch.
Oh, yeah, and a really cool Now I'm Nothing patch, if I'm not mistaken. And other people are donating shirts.
Some of our listeners are donating their collectibles and memorabilia. Adam is donating some cool badges or pins. And a poster with teeth poster, I think. That's never been hung up, if I'm right.
Yeah. Thank you, Sweet Tooth Enamel, who we've worked with in the past. I am not going to say just yet the nature of this, but thank you to Sweet Tooth for something that's coming up in the raffle. Thank you, Holly, who just recently offered to donate something. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Ixie, very much. We'll be raffling something Ixie donated as soon as it gets here. The idea, I don't want to raffle everyone to death for the next several months. I would really like to meet our budget goals, meet our fundraising goals, and then stop inundating everyone. But people seem to be enjoying the raffles. They like getting this cool stuff, so I did put a poll out there that said, are you raffled out?
Should we do a raffle of old Jessica t-shirts with my DNA and skank on them, as you said?
Yeah. We're going to do heavily worn. They smell heavily of Jessica.
They don't. I wash them.
And that's part of the appeal, folks.
I do have a Year Zero t-shirt that I threw in.
Yeah, I think we'll be doing that at some point.
I was thinking about doing my Captain Marvel 9-inch nails too.
Oh, yeah. Because I also have one of those.
Yeah.
And we'll be putting some of our own like stickers in there with these, like the nailed logo sticker and the Tiny Trents, the holographic shiny Tiny Trent stickers that are fun with the art design by our friend Katie.
And thank you to everyone who's also made individual contributions and donations.
Yes.
So many actually have.
People have, even outside of the raffle, people just out of the goodness of their hearts have donated to the New Computer Fund.
Are we a fourth of the way there now?
I think we're almost to like the 25% mark of our goal.
Okay.
So, and that's, that it hasn't been that long.
That's true. We've only done 3 of these. So.
I'm hopeful that we can make this goal.
Yeah.
Because it would be really nice to be able to make podcasts well again. And I want to keep doing it for a long time.
God, I'm so glad we splurged and got this laptop because we would be truly effed. We're still paying off this laptop, by the way.
Yeah, we went into debt for this laptop, make no mistake. But it's not supposed to be the podcasting laptop. We're just trying to make it work. If we didn't have the laptop, we'd be recording on our iPhones probably. Probably.
That would be horrible.
Yeah.
How would you be editing it? Like, there's no way.
I wouldn't be. I don't know.
It'd be awful.
Yeah. Okay. So, for the aforementioned bonus episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/nailedpod. You can also get to all our stuff by going to nailedpod.com. Oh, and I wanted to mention that our most recent bonus episode is a collection of bloopers and outtakes. It's just it's a short little thing compared to what we usually do, but at the end it contains outtakes from the Adam Steiner interview. So interesting stuff we talked about that was not in the episode on the main feed. So I thought it was noteworthy.
No, it was cool.
Also, you should check out a podcast that Jessica does with our friend Josh and I produce, and it's about young adult books. And they also do bonus episodes about teen-related movies, and the podcast is called Are You There Pod? Look that up in all major podcast apps.
Do you know what my goal is? I want to be part of Mary Queen's goth harem.
Ooh.
And I want to invite her on to talk about like a Fear Street book.
Okay.
We're the same. She's like amazing. A year or two older than me, I think. So
that'd be amazing. Do you think she's into Fear Street?
I mean, every kid was around that era, right? Maybe she was way too cool though and didn't read. I don't know.
Too cool to read.
Some people.
Fuck off, nerd.
Maybe she was getting dates in high school and junior high. I was
reading
not.
First Street.
Yeah.
And listen to my other podcast that I do with my band, and we do discographies of artists of all musical genres, and it's called More of That Presents Discographology. If you can spell that word, put it in any podcast application, it'll come right up. Please give us a listen. This is where I shout out patrons to thank them for subscribing to us on Patreon. And I've been doing, I feel like I've neglected the people who were there on the ground floor from the beginning. So do you think we're almost to the 50 patron point at this point? Do you think I can rattle off almost 50 people here?
You could give me 10 and you could do 10. We can take turns.
Okay. So this is kind of from the bottom up, from the oldest to the newest. I want to thank Matt and Josh. They are my close personal friends. And they're in my band and they're on my other podcast. Jessica's on here.
Yeah,
okay.
I also support us. You're welcome.
I want to thank Sarah and Ashley and Crystal. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Jordy. Thank you, Liz. Thanks to Travis. Thank you to Into the Void. I think that's Jody. Thank you to Logan.
My other personal friend, also in my band.
Thank you to Holly. And thank you to Christian.
I think there's going to be more than one Christian also.
And I think this Christian, though, is I think the Infinite Spiral. Is that the...
I believe that's right.
On Instagram. Give a follow.
Thank you, Armand. Thank you, Isaiah. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Robert. Thanks, Heather. Now, some of these people are a little more elusive, and that's just fine with me. Hey, I'm elusive myself. I may not know your real name at all, but thank you, Poisonous T. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Deverin. Thank you, Scott. Thank you. It looks like Darth Stofier. That's my best guess. Thanks, Green Bay Mackie. Thank you, Henry.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Michael and Andrew. Thank you to Lisa and Ellen. Thanks to Cameron and Adam and Connor. Thanks to Mel. Thanks to Christian and to Jason.
There's that second Christian.
Am I supposed to do something when we get to 100 patrons?
When we get to 100 patrons, Jess gets a tattoo.
No, that's not true. I think it was like 1,000.
We are going to try
permanent body art.
I think it should be 500. 1,000, we may not live to see that number. Plus, this is body art that you'd probably want anyway.
Yeah, but it's not your body. You can't make my body my choice.
We need to come up with something really cool that the listeners would like for the 100 patron milestone. So if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. Hit us up and tell us what kind of special thing you would like us to do for once we hit the 100 patron goal. Okay, I want to continue this. Thank you, Rex, Asher, John, Frank, Dan. I think that's the second Dan I've done. And another Richard. Jasco. Thank you to Serene Ailment. That's a good name. And finally, our newest patron, and this is a good name, Halo Ruiner.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so that took longer than I thought, but I guess that's a good problem to have. Thank you for listening to that.
Thank you
and
for
thank
your
you for
support.
subscribing. Yes. I had an idea for new merch.
Oh, okay.
We should make I can't even remember if this was my idea now or if someone else threw this idea out there, but branded pillows.
Oh yeah, that was Stacy in our Discord.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of Stacy, nailed branded pillows for yelling into. So I'm thinking of something that just looks very technical and says like Resner's own analog yelling pillow. And it's a pillow that's not for sleeping on. It's only for yelling into.
Only for yelling.
So it's a pro audio pillow that you yell through into the microphone. So just be on the lookout for that.
It's also good for therapy. It's very therapeutic, very cathartic to just yell it all out.
I'd love to see our throw pillows on your couches and stuff. For the end of this, do you think this would be a good idea for me to play? Because I've talked to some listeners about this who comment on the evolution of the theme music that I've made and how it's kind of changed over time for the Downward Spiral era. If I do the evolution of the theme music and do each version back to back so you can kind of hear how it's changed each iteration.
Sure.
There are maybe 6 or 7 of them, but they're very short.
Yeah, and you can even upload them for downloads.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some people might want that.
If you actually want to download them, let me know. I don't know that there's any interest. But I'll play them back to back so you can hear the change over time. Maybe it'll be interesting. And I'll let that lead us out. Anything else I'm forgetting?
I don't think so. I think you covered every single tiny piece of business you could possibly cover. That took like half an hour.
I had to write it down. It'll be cut down a lot.
I know.
So thank you for bearing with us and for listening through our whole Halo 8 miniseries.
Thank you. It's a rough one.
It's rough, but it's been fun, right? Mm-hmm. To do this miniseries.
It's been a journey, man. It's been a ride.
It's been a long, strange trip. I'm happy to move on to the next portion. So, okay. Let's cut them loose. Jess, what do you say?
Bye. I don't know what you want me to say. You say it. You have the better voice.
Thanks for listening. Didn't that make you feel better?
Thank you.